Thanks for joining us again, everyone, at Goody and Johnny Mo with the movies. Tonight we are going to be bringing you episode 39.
39.
And we are 1 week closer to Halloween. Actually, we are a week to the day. And
Next Saturday.
Next Saturday. And we are going to be bringing you The Conjuring 2 tonight. So we just watched this last week. I had seen this movie many times, like I have the first one. And Johnny Mo, that was your first viewing again.
Yes, but
right?
Before we get even further, we got to talk about what we're drinking.
Oh, yeah. So you found a little something special tonight.
Yes, so we're actually drinking the same thing. We are drinking Sierra Nevada's Oktoberfest in this nice little blue bottle. And I didn't know that. I thought Sierra Nevada was really just out west. But apparently, it's from Chico, California and Mills River, North Carolina.
So there we go. That's where it's bottled.
They must have two of them, East Coast and West Coast. But it's actually pretty good. I've never had this before. And it's actually pretty good.
So cheers. Thank you very much to everyone who's watching and listening.
Yeah, and being that it is Oktoberfest time, we've actually seen
right.
a lot of Oktoberfest beers, and always good, especially the German ones.
Grab the seasonal ales as long as you can.
Oh yeah, you get now you see all the Oktoberfests and you see all the pumpkin ales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, those are the ones that I like the most. So we did our first review of The Conjuring about 2 episodes ago.
From 2013
That was 2013. I think this may have been 2016
or 17, I forget.
Yeah, it's like somewhere like right around there. I didn't look it up right before we started this, but I'd say it was right around
Now,
there.
I was under the impression that this was the second movie in the Conjuring universe, but I think you said it's not.
No, it wasn't.
The Nun came out in between?
No, The Nun came out later. The Nun came out after this one, because this is where The Nun appeared.
Maybe Annabelle.
At least one, if not 2 of the Annabelle movies came out.
Interesting.
And then The Conjuring 2 came out.
See, I thought we were watching them in the order, but I guess
no.
you don't need to.
You don't need to watch the Annabelle. I mean, it's part of the universe, but it's really more of the backstory of the doll.
Yeah, it's not connected.
It's connected, but not. It's more indirectly connected.
Indirect. Like it's not like you needed to see those movies before seeing.
No, like you really don't see the Warrens until. Is it? I think maybe the end of the second Annabelle movie, or no, they're definitely in the third Annabelle film for sure. A lot of it has to do with their daughter, but but I don't remember. I can't remember because I only saw the Annabelle films once each.
Well, either way, I mean, my theory. I actually want to see the Annabelle movies.
I think it's worth seeing them at least once, just so that you have the context of everything with the whole connected universe.
And I want to see the Nun too. So now that being that I've seen 2 movies and I like 2, I'm interested to see how the rest of them go.
Yeah.
Even if they start getting progressively worse, like there was a time back in the day where I said, you know what, I need to see all the Halloween movies, and I wound up and there's quite a few of them, and some of them really stink, but like just for like completeness sake, saw all the Halloween movies, see all the Friday the 13th movies, see all the Hellraiser movies.
Oh my God, yeah. And there's a lot. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of sequels, and the majority of them do not live up to the originals.
No, they don't. But it's almost like just
you got to see where it goes.
Yeah, or like I tried to sit down one day to see all the Saw movies. I don't think I got through all of them, but I got a lot further than I thought I was going to. But it's like when you start getting to like Saw 7, it's like these movies were probably weren't even in theatrical release. They might have.
No, I think they were, because the Saw had like a big cult following. No, Saw had a big cult following. I'm pretty sure all of those
had theatrical. Okay.
All of them had theatrical release because they were all low budget films, but they made big money at the box office.
Yeah.
They had a big cult following.
Right.
At least the first 5, 6 did, and I know they came out with a couple afterwards. And I think they were supposed to come, and then they came out with Jigsaw, which was another one. So
so I mean, so oddly enough, there's this whole Conjuring universe of movies that I don't know. I don't think I've seen any of them until just recently. Conjuring 1, Conjuring 2, and now it's just like, you know what? They've piqued my interest and curiosity enough to see the rest, and hopefully they stand up to what I've seen so far.
The only thing that's a shame is that they're not all done by James Wan. Wan's in. I think he's on as producer.
Oh, okay.
He's either on as producer or as executive producer.
I was going to say executive producer.
In most cases, but he only directed the first 2 Conjuring films.
Okay.
So, I mean, we'll see. I think we'll definitely get to see them at some point with you, and,
yeah.
let me know what you
Slowly
think.
but surely, yeah.
So,
and in the meantime, I'll just keep having Chris watching 40s, 50s, and 60s black and white horror films.
which is John's forte, which is what he loves to watch. So in this film, the Warrens go to England. So this time we actually travel abroad, and it's a similar situation. Some odd things start to happen to this family that that's hard to explain.
And once again, based on true events,
And again, based on true events.
which is actually to me like one of the appeals to these films.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that makes it gives it a totally different perspective. However, it does open up to a little bit. It does open it up to a little bit of criticism in a sense.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, because you're still trying to base it in what we know in the physical, real world.
Right.
When you're talking about more like this spiritual sense of it, it's, it makes you think a little bit more.
Yeah, because I think I think what this movie had, which was a little bit different from the first Conjuring, is it had like more like I want to say visual effects, like stuff like really happening in physical space and stuff like that, and even like visuals of like demons and stuff like that, and I said this, I almost felt like it was almost a little exaggerated because it was based on real events, like it probably didn't happen and look like this. But then I was thinking about it, like, okay, someone might say, well, look at Poltergeist, look at all this, the demons and special effects in Poltergeist. But
Right.
again, Poltergeist was not based on real events.
Right.
They weren't
Fictional.
trying to. It was completely fictional, so it made sense to go kind of over the top with the visual because there was all sorts of craziness going on. But if you're trying to say, this is kind of what happened, I almost felt like it should have stayed more like based in how it really would have happened. I think that might have been more effective, because when some of those scenes were really kind of over the top in terms of what you were seeing, I was like, all right, that's probably just a cinematic dramatization,
Right.
To kind of make everybody's eyes pop. And I'm just like,
But they probably have to, because like how much of it during these investigations, not everything is going to be like, oh my God, that's scary.
yeah, but you know what?
that's
Sometimes
suspenseful.
what you don't see is what's scary.
Yes,
You know?
I agree with you, and there are plenty of films that we can point to as an example of that.
Yeah.
But I think with this, I don't know how much time the Warrens had spent with this family.
Mm-hmm.
So like how much data that they were collecting, and over that time, how many odd things happened. The first film I thought did such a great job of examining like the family, and like
Yeah.
you got to spend time with the family and really get to know them so well. And in this family, it's such different circumstances. I mean, this family they're poor. They it's a single mother that's raising them.
They actually live on like a city street as opposed to basically out in the backwoods.
Right. And it's just their
Urban setting, I guess, or suburban.
it's just it's a family that's almost like on the outs. They don't have like a lot of hope in their lives. It seems like the mother's kind of frantic with trying to hold on to her job, and she can't pay some of the bills. So that I think that gives a little bit more to like why the the essence like kind of like chose them in a sense, right? And then we also find out that there's this old guy who's dead and living in the apartment.
Ghosting.
Yeah, he's kind of just ghosting the family, and he's kind of like playing with them a little bit.
Right, but it turns out he's basically under the influence of the demon.
Yeah.
Now the demon in the movie takes the appearance of like a demon in a nun's outfit,
Right.
habit, or whatever you want to call it. Now, is that the same demon in the nun?
I think it is, because the nun takes place in the past.
Okay.
So I would think that is the case, although because I haven't seen the nun, I'm not sure.
And I'm hoping
So
it's
the
like
first time you
I'm
view the
hoping
nun
it's
will be
like a
probably my
female
first viewing.
spirit.
Yes.
'Cause I'm like, it's kind of hard to tell. The demons they're just pretty ugly looking. But I'm like, I really hope it's I'm assuming it's a female spirit.
Well, this is why like it came full circle with like
Yeah.
his painting and everything
Yeah,
like
and
that.
the painting was actually kind of creepy looking. I kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
I kind of liked that, especially when it was in the background. But I think one of the things that I like about these films is that they're just smarter movies.
Yes.
They're they're above the standard that I expect to see from this time period in terms of horror films. You know, you're not getting the standard stereotypical cardboard character teenagers that are involved. You know, you're actually, you know, you're dealing with adults who are like, and you don't see that often. Almost everything is about like, teenagers, and then all of a sudden, you know, they find somebody that knows about stuff, and it's like, really, how'd you, like,
Right.
your next door neighbor knows about it. No, it doesn't work that way. You know, like, your best friend or a friend of a friend, and I think I found that. Like these coincidences, really annoy me sometimes. What was that show on Amazon? I think it was. It was. I can't remember the name of it. It was either The Stranger, the Outsider,
The Outsider.
The Outsider.
That was on HBO.
Yeah, on HBO. So
Yeah.
in The Outsider, they had the scenario where the guy was talking to somebody else in prison, and they're talking about they're dealing with this demon, and there's a prisoner at the next table or someone visiting a prisoner at the next table, overhearing that conversation, and it turns out that person, knows all about the history of this type of demon.
Right.
And it's like, come on. So at the end of the day, like, they're not going next door. They didn't just happen to walk into somebody.
Yeah.
They're actually, it's like something's going on. So who did they call? They called upon.
They called the police.
Well,
Initially.
no, but like when it started getting paranormal, like, they went through these channels to get like the experts in this phenomenon in the world. So it's like,
Right.
They didn't just happen to live next door to the Warrens. The Warrens were called in because they're adults in the real world that know how to deal with this stuff, and they get pulled in.
But it also, well, you just said it, because they got pulled in, because initially
Yeah.
they call the police,
Right.
and then the police go into the house, and then they get freaked out because stuff's happening while the police are there. They can't explain what it is, so they bolt and are like, "Yeah, no, we can't help you with
Yeah,
this."
you need to get something. You need to talk to.
get
You
help.
need to talk to the church or
they,
whatever.
Then they end up going to, I think they went to like a university, right? And like I think they tried getting help, and then all of a sudden they started getting, they got like news people to come in, and that's when the girl started doing the voice.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when the old man in the chair like took control of her and started using her as a puppet, and then that gets played for the Warrens by the priest that they was also in the first one.
Right.
And then it's like, and then they're like, we need you to go over to England and take a look at this.
Now, oddly enough, it was kind of interesting in the ending credits of the film. They actually play the actual
They play the tapes.
tapes.
Yeah.
That were and that and that really kind of grounds it.
Yes.
In, like,
It's like, okay, so this is what
that's
happened.
interesting. And, they show the pictures of the actual family.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I really liked about both films, is that they took audio that they had captured, like the actual data that they recorded and studied, and they were able to use that in the film and recreate it as close probably to what actually had happened. So we kind of at least get that grounded sense of this happening in reality.
I think they pulled enough things to make it like an adaptation. And granted, there's going to be artistic license, and
Right.
it's a matter of like, how far did they go with going above and beyond what actually happened? Did they go too far? This and that, and it's kind of interesting. And like I said, like, I like that. It's like, you're not getting this standard BS story with characters that are cardboard, that are really pandering towards a teenage audience. You don't just get all those stereotypical characters. You're dealing with like adults in the real world. You're dealing with a real, almost like a real family.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to, like all nice kids, like, I hate those families where it's like there's 4 kids and all 4 kids are like, all opposite sides of the spectrum, because, everyone's got the rebel and the person who, and it's like, no, a lot of
Each
times.
one's a character.
Yeah, a lot of times, families are just families, and all 4 kids are good kids and they all get along and this and that, and that's the way it goes. I'm sure they have, their quirky personalities, but they're not like radical extremes. One kid isn't goth and the other one's a nerd and the other one, what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't usually work out.
like,
It doesn't
all these-
really work out that way.
Like, all these kids are pretty similar. And then the one daughter who is
Yeah.
being possessed and taking control, she's the one that tends to stand out. Like we see that when she's
Yeah.
in school.
And I do like, and I like this in the first movie too, is that the performances by the children are really like kind of authentic. Like
Well,
they're playing kids.
Yeah.
They're not playing like the typical kids that you see in films, which are either super geniuses or super brats or they know everything. And it's just like, you know what? They're like they're victims of what's going on. They're not in
Right.
charge of what's going on. So many of these films with, you know, either the kids are in charge
Right.
and the adults know nothing. And it's like, you know, like the kids are running around going to the police and the police are retarded and the kids know the deal and they fight the demon on their own. It's like, you know what? It doesn't work that way. In real life, you know, the kids get killed and the adults figure it out or not. Like, you know, kids don't solve it.
Right.
You know, and so that what you have here is you have these really like, I just thought it was really good performances by these like realistic performances, realistic representations of what would happen in this actual type of scenario. You have kids that are, you know, basically just scared out of their minds.
Yeah.
You know, looking for adults for help and, you know, and the adults are in charge of the situation
And
trying to resolve it.
And it all comes across like that because even like you could see how distraught the mother is.
Yeah.
Because at one point there's a lot of questioning going on whether this daughter's faking it, and
Yeah.
a lot of that is going around.
And I'm sure that was actually something that occurred in real life.
Yeah.
You know, because that will be.
That's the first thing people are going to say because
Everyone's gonna say
you're
it.
not going to believe in the supernatural aspect about it. You're going to believe in what can you explain.
Yeah.
And it's the daughter's fooling everybody.
Right. And, you know, and you do, and I'm sure there have been numerous scenarios in the past where people were either the one kid was just, you know, playing a joke,
Yeah.
or maybe even conspiracy, like, you know, the entire family
The
was
family's
in
in on it because they
to-
want money.
to, whether it be money or notoriety or popularity, you know,
Which is-
whatever, or just, you know, shock value.
Which is what they thought here because the money was poor. They
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of money. They figured, hey, you know what? The theory was that this family was doing it to get notoriety, to get some type of fame, to get money for interviews or whatnot, so that
And
this way
get them out of their economic situation.
Yeah,
And you
get
know what?
them out.
And in the real world, sometimes that's a legitimate ploy.
yeah
You know, like, you know, people that, you know, get creative, like, you know, they're either, you know, I mean, I think it was a single mother, right?
yeah
Yeah, like, you know, these are people like, you know, we're either going to starve to death or die, like, or we do something crazy like this.
right. And all of a sudden you get this like not get rich quick scheme, but you'll get enough to like get by for a while.
Right. And at the end of the day, who's getting hurt?
Right.
You know, the people that believed in it and found that it was a fake, you know, they'll get over it. You know, they're not killing people, you know, they're not scamming people. I mean, maybe they are, but I think
scamming in a
they
sense.
are scamming in a sense.
Yeah.
But nobody's physically getting hurt. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But yeah, no, I enjoyed this movie because, like I said, it's just different from the other types of horror films, you know. And you know, if you go back in the day, back in either the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, and 30s, you know, there were horror films that were geared towards, you know, kids or younger mentality, like kind of lower budget type scenarios. And
Yeah.
then there were like horror films that were really geared towards adults. And I feel like, you know, post Halloween, not all, but most horror films are geared towards, you know, a teenage audience, you know, that, you know, is just looking for cheap thrills.
Yep.
You know, jump scares and cheap thrills and nonsense and BS.
And that's who's going to fill up most of the box office for those films.
And they're not necessarily really serious films and not really serious horror films, like say something like the Sixth Sense, I think,
Right.
or things like that. You know, and so, you know, seeing a film like this, which is, you know, and to me, these movies aren't great films. These are not the best horror films I've ever seen, but they're enjoyable. They're not insulting to your intelligence. You know, I think I gave both of them anywhere from solid 2.5 to solid 3, depending. You know, they're 2.5 to 3-star movies. You know, but either strong 2.5s or knocking on the door at 3. I think the first Conjuring I gave 3 stars.
I think the first one's a
second
solid
one
film.
is like solid 2.5, trying to get to 3. And that's not bad because most of these films are garbage. Most of these films are 2 stars, 1.5, 1 star bombs. Like, you know, they're retarded. You know, these are much better films, I think. You know, they're for like a more adult and intelligent audience. And I don't think there were any jump scares that I remember, like, or blatantly.
Not blatant like It's not going for the cheap jump scare.
Right, a blatant
they're trying to
cheap
go for
jump scare.
I think they're trying to go for more authentic feels, and a lot of that is done even with the music. Again, the composer doing this to where at some points you'll have no sound or audio, and then a change of the camera angle, and when you see something, then all of a sudden the music pops on with it, and that kind of like helps with that shock value.
Yeah. Now, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I was gonna say one part of the film that I thought was a little bit of a stretch was when they're on the train towards the end, and they've given up and they think it's a hoax, and the guy drops the film tapes and they cross, and it says to him, "Oh my God, what if I played these at the same time?" And it just seemed like a whole. It was a real stretch for them to come to the conclusion that, like, oh my God, something is going on. Because then they played the tapes at the same time, and all of a sudden it made a complete
message.
It made a message,
yeah.
and I'm just like, the timing of how it happened and where, and the conclusions that were drawn, and they made it back just in time. It just to me that to me was the only part of the movie that seemed very, very convenient.
Well, to me, that's more of the. If you're going with this whole spiritual religious aspect, that's that divine intervention where it's like something happens and it's not by chance.
Okay, maybe that's the
and they
angle
don't
I'm going for.
and they don't and then as the Warrens, because they are religious and spiritual people, they don't look at that as pure happenstance. So all of a sudden that might have like clicked in his head.
Yeah.
So at that part, I gave a little leeway with that one.
Now, when we were at the end of the film, when they were back in their house, you saw the Annabelle doll again, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they always throw.
Yeah.
That in.
Oh no, they put that in there, and I think because it's.
Now you said you went to that
big,
place.
I didn't go there, but they showed us pictures of it because they came to my college.
Okay.
But they talked about it.
I thought you guys actually went there.
No, they talked about it, and they talked about how motors would come and view it, and it was a popular, well, I guess a known attraction for a period of time. And I did check and look, and I found out that Lorraine Warren did pass away, I think in 2019.
One thing I did notice when they started showing all the pictures of the actual people, you sit there and you get a sense that, like, okay, they definitely got, not that these people were ugly, they just looked like normal people.
They're just everyday average people.
Average people, but all the actors and actresses that were portraying them were just a lot.
Well, then
a lot prettier. You could tell that these were and I'm like, I almost feel like you could have gotten I think you could have gotten a more authentic feel from the film if everybody wasn't so pretty. Like it would have I think people identify with normal looking people more than
the glamour.
than glamorous, actors and actresses. Not that these were all, supermodels, but it's like, it's funny. You kind of looked at these people in the pictures and like, oh wow, the person they got to play him was, a lot prettier looking. Not, not to be disparaging, but like, they look like regular, normal, working class people
in the photos.
Yeah, in the photos, know. And all these other people look,
well,
I guess look like actors and actresses.
Even in the first one, I think you could say that too.
Yeah, I think so too.
But it's just the Hollywood.
At some point, I guess the people in charge of money said, okay, we got to make everybody a little bit glossier. We got to throw in, because like the special effects that they had in them, like I want to say like the Crooked Man.
Yeah.
Like some of these things were pretty intense and involved with the manifestations of the different demonic presences. They were like they were in the movie. They're actually physically there, going down the hallway, and and it's just like, you sit there and say, okay, I refuse to believe that they actually saw everything that they were depicting as it was depicted.
Like, do you think like the son looking at the Crooked Man coming down the hallway, like in the movie, compared to what
actually happened in real life?
Yeah,
was probably not that vivid and that intense.
Right, and then also too, what about when the daughter was levitating? Right.
Yeah.
At that one point, like, was it like that in their living room where that happened?
Right.
Was that like that? And I think that's where some of those, the Hollywood effect, comes in, and trying to figure out, okay, they got to stretch this into a 2-hour film.
Right.
How are they gonna do that and have suspense the entire time to kind of keep the viewer engaged in the story.
Well, I think you can. There's just ways to do things where it's just, like, if you get into the character development and you present the scenarios, there's a way to build a really good, scary movie without necessarily having to go over the top.
See, and nowadays it would probably be so different because you'd have all this recording equipment that you'd be,
Oh yeah,
that would be like in every corner of the room that you'd get every angle at. Whereas back then, this was in the early mid '70s.
Right.
You're talking just regular still photography. They did have video cameras, like the full-on VHS ones, but even then, like that, it wasn't full-on recording the entire time.
Right,
And
right.
at that point in time, too, didn't the Warrens had left, right? When the daughter was levitating, because they didn't see that, because otherwise they would have stayed, because they would have thought it was real. I don't think the Warrens were there.
Could be.
I think they were gone at that point.
So like other things like, in real life when things played out, did lightning strike the tree?
Oh, strike the tree. Yeah.
And
I don't think so.
make it into like, something that
Stick.
someone could impale themselves
Yeah.
upon. It's like you sit there and say like, okay, did that really happen? Because if it did, it's unbelievable. It's amazing. It would be crazy if that happened.
Yeah.
But like, or was it completely made up?
Like when they're taking the picture, when they're showing the pictures after the movie's over, doing all the still photography, it would have been incredible if they actually had a picture of the apartment when everything went down.
Yeah.
Did it look like that afterwards? Because
Yeah.
then they would have shown a tree like that, that a sharp tree where she could have impaled himself on if he would have fallen out. That really would have been interesting.
There was one part in the movie that I just thought was really stupid. They had the one guy who had the axe who was trying to like break down the door.
Oh yes.
And he just keeps hitting in the middle to try and make
Right.
a bigger and bigger
hole.
hole. Where it's like, you know what? Like if I'm that guy, I'm like axing at the hinges
Right.
so I can get the door off.
Just push it, yeah, yeah, or hit it at the lock,
Right, exactly.
get
At
it
the
to
lock, like you should be hitting it at like these like pressure, like what was that, like
the
important
parts
pressure
that are
points.
going to actually like open the door.
Yeah, as opposed to trying to just build it,
Barrel your way through.
just axe an entire giant hole through the door.
Yeah.
And this guy was a big guy.
He's a big dude.
He was,
He probably could have kicked the door in.
well, he still might be there today trying to make a hole big enough for him to get through. Because I'm just like, what is this guy doing? He's still he's trying to, like, what is he, crazy? Just hit the bolts.
The one thing that I think Juan does really, really well is the relationship between Ed and Lorraine in both films, where I feel like they work so well as a couple.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. It's not just the wife figuring everything out or the husband coming to save the day. It's like these two have such a great working relationship with one another, and it really plays out well on film. And I think the actors too. Oh God, Wilson.
I don't remember any of their names.
It's Wilson. Vera Farmiga.
Oh yeah, and I
Vera
like her.
Farmiga is the one, and then something Wilson, I think, is the guy. who
They're
plays-
just
plays
such
Ed.
Unlikely heroes in today's cinematic scenario.
which is why it takes place in the past.
Right.
But the fact that these two, I mean, even in this one, it's not like they're both they both are working together even when they're apart, and I like that a lot. It's like you can just see how much they each have each other's back, and that they support one another, and they're willing to do whatever they can to help each other.
And I think it's the same daughter in both movies.
Yes, I think she's just older.
Yeah, just a little older.
No, I like that. I like that they kind of keep that realism of, okay, we're a few years later now from the first Conjuring film, and the daughter's growing up.
Yeah. Oh, and in the beginning of this movie, they talk about.
They start off in the Amityville
They
house.
start in the Amityville horror house.
Yeah.
Which, at the end of the day, I wish I knew enough about it. Was that ultimately confirmed to be a hoax or not? I don't know.
I don't know. Even to this day, I think you probably still have people on both sides of that camp saying that it was a hoax or that it wasn't a hoax.
And I guarantee you, it's not impossible to find that house. Like, somebody has to know exactly where that house is. Like, I think 20 years ago it would have been hard to find the house because everything was hush hush. But with the internet today, Like I think
Yeah.
where exactly where that house is a known thing that you could find out whether
Oh, yeah.
whether somebody wanted you to find out or not.
Yep.
And we're not that far from Amityville. I think just the last one day we got to drive by the actual
There's
address
cops that
location.
patrol that street. Because where I work is close to there, and I've had plenty of patients tell me that
To this day.
to this day there are cops that patrol it, especially this time of year, around Halloween.
Oh, and what can they do though? If you drive by
just tell
without,
you,
if
you
you
don't-
drive by without stopping, I don't think they can stop you and say, "What are
I
you
don't know
doing?"
that, but if they know that you don't belong in the area, they can be like, "What are you doing?" They could stop you and just be like, "What are you doing here? Go home. Like, get out of here."
Yeah, I
'Cause
don't
they
think
don't
I
want-
don't think they could give you a ticket though.
I don't think they give you a ticket.
They
but-
just basically kind of scare you off.
Yeah, I think pretty much because they don't. I mean, who knows? Maybe they could do something like disturbing or
Well,
something
yeah.
like that. If you're
So this is my
if you're
theory is
hanging
that
around.
we should go drive by that house 4 months after Halloween because people will do. And when people that do it exactly 6 months after Halloween, that's also a trouble.
Well, now the thing is too. So the house that you see in the movie, that style of home,
February,
dead of winter.
February is when we should go see it.
So from what we know, the house itself, the way that the house was shaped and the way that it looked in the Amityville film, and then also in the Conjuring movie, Conjuring 2, with those windows that kind of made it look like a face.
The house doesn't look that way anymore.
They've changed it so much
Okay.
because I think of
It just stood
the thoughts of what it represented, and just because so many people were like kind of, I guess, harassing them or going by, that it's just whoever's been. I know it's changed owners multiple times, and it's just they want the memories erased. So like the house doesn't even look that way anymore.
We got to do it.
Like
We
I don't
gotta
even
do it.
I don't even think those windows are there anymore.
I'm
like
sure.
that. I think they've like completely changed the house.
We got to do it though. It's
Somebody
I think
will.
it's just one of those things that's like like the fact that we live on Long Island and like I work in Farmingdale. Not that I'm working from home now, but like my job is in Farmingdale and like Amityville is just south. Like I'm in the town
Right,
just
you're right
north
there.
of. So I'm like it's right there.
Yeah. No, I think at some point we'll probably take a little trip past that.
Yeah, we'd have to do it.
But I mean, overall, I think again, I thought Juan did a really great job with this film.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to the third Conjuring film that was supposed to come out in 2021, and I'm guessing that's going to get pushed back to 2022. Is
Yeah,
my guess.
probably.
I don't know how much they've even filmed of that. If they even started filming, I'm not even sure.
Is it the same couple?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, they're all back. Again, another based on another story of theirs, another tale of theirs that of things that they've gone through. So I am looking forward to that. But I enjoy these films, I really do. And I think I mentioned this in the first video that we did. I've seen all 3 Annabelle films. The first one was all right. Second one was definitely a step forward, and even the third one, the Annabelle Comes Home.
I have no
I think
idea.
it's the third title. That one wasn't bad either. So again, I do want to go see. I want to see The Nun and The Curse of La Llorona, because that's also a part of the Conjuring universe. So those 2 films you and I have to watch at least at some point.
And then with the the whole concept of Annabelle is like one of those things where like there's a lot of movies out there with like either possessed dolls or devil dolls, and there's actually quite a few of them. Aside from the Chucky films, there's Magic with Anthony Hopkins. There's even a movie I saw not too long ago called Devil Doll. It was a British film from the 50s, I think, or 60s, I forget. It was actually pretty good.
Even in Poltergeist, that clown.
Yeah, that clown is
comes alive.
scary
at
as
the
all
end.
hell.
Oh yeah.
And there's even a couple of, quite often, a lot of those dolls are, like ventriloquism dolls, but they're not always that. But there were, a couple of really good episodes of The Twilight Zone that, dabbled
from
with
that.
that.
Okay.
Like dummies and stuff like that, which are kind of good. And even the Twilight Zone episode Talkie Tina with the doll, so there's a lot of there's a I don't want to say there's a long cinematic history with those type of movies, but there's a good number of them, and some of them are older that a lot of people might not be familiar with,
Right.
and they're actually kind of effective films. So me seeing this, I want to see the Annabelle films to kind of just add add that movie to that type of movie that I've seen in the past.
Right.
You know, which is might be more movies than other people have seen because, like I said, some of these movies are older. But yeah, no, I'm interested in the fact that there are three of them. You know, they had to be a little bit entertaining. At least the first one.
Yeah,
You know,
enough
like,
to
you know,
fund a second
gotta
film,
be.
and I think because like the first Conjuring film just had did so well, you know, that they ended up catapulting Annabelle for people to go and see it,
Yeah.
and I think it made just enough for them to say, okay, let's do a sequel because these are not like big budgeted films. It's not a huge special effects.
Well, you know what? But that's okay. Like, you know, like
Well, no, which is fine to me. I think
Yeah.
it makes the film a little bit more enjoyable
you know, it's almost like
because the special effects aren't completely over the top.
when you have unlimited funds, you tend to take advantage of that and just, you know, start doing all this over the top stuff, and it becomes more visual and less subliminal.
Right, but if now you're working within a budget and you're constrained on your special effects,
You know, you almost have to
you
get
gotta get creative.
You got to get creative. You
Yeah.
know, just like okay, just like Steven Spielberg got creative with Jaws.
Right. Well, he got creative by choice because the shark wasn't working. So, and again,
But also the fact
this
that he
is-
didn't have an enormous budget either.
right.
I don't think. Like,
but
they
also
were,
too, special effects were not what they are now. Like, you know, at that time, you know, you're not doing a lot of green screen or blue screen
Right.
or anything like that.
you know, just think about these films that were really, really worked. You know, and I can, you know, like okay, so movies like that really worked that definitely had budget constraints. You know, far and away. You know, Spielberg's Jaws, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roman Polanski's Repulsion.
Yeah.
You know, these are movies that you know it's like, you know, they had to work within what they could do, and it's like okay, let's make
You gotta make the
let's
most
get
of it.
let's get into people's heads
Right.
without by making them think about what they think they're
Right.
seeing.
Well, that's what it is. It's show less and don't show the monster.
Right. Exactly.
You know, don't show the creature, and I think that works even in horror to a degree.
Yeah.
You know, you can hold off, show bits and pieces, show shadows,
Right.
and
And then there are people
build
that
up
probably
the
could do
image.
whatever they wanted that knew that the right way to, like, you know, like Alfred Hitchcock making Psycho. Like, you know, Alfred Hitchcock, you know, could probably pretty much do whatever he wanted, but, you know, but he's a master of the art form.
Yeah.
You know, he made Psycho and did it right, you know, and he didn't care about the money versus not the money. He cared about making a great film, you know, and he knew how to do that regardless of budget, you know, so, you know, things like that. But, yeah, no, it's interesting, you know, watching people's creative choices and how they do stuff, you know.
That's why I trust Juan, because I think Juan has done such a good job with these two films, and even I mean, his other big budgeted film that he worked with obviously was Aquaman, and I thought he did a lot with the special effects. I thought his film was very different, a lot of it being underwater and how you interact underwater.
James Wan did Aquaman?
Yeah,
I don't know that I knew that.
that was his film.
Interesting.
So
I wasn't a big fan of Aquaman. I thought it was just way over the top. It just was nonstop. But this is not an Aquaman review.
no, that we could say that for another
Did
time.
we review Aquaman?
No, that was before we started doing the channel.
Interesting. I felt like we talked
We
about
could always go back and do it.
it. Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, guys, I think if you haven't seen the Conjuring films, now is the perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could find these somewhere, either streaming or on demand somewhere at this point in time. It's that month, so definitely scare yourself. Pull up one of these films. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you enjoy these reviews.
Yeah, I think my final analysis for Conjuring 2 is at the very least a solid 2.5, leaning towards a 3. I'm not sure if it's a 3, but if it is a 3, it's not a very strong 3.
First
But
one is
I think the first
First
one
one's
is a pretty
solid.
solid 3.
Really,
I definitely give the
really
first
solid.
one a solid 3, and I definitely enjoyed both movies. But I think the second one is like, to me, a 2.5 to 3.
you know-
That's not bad. That's not a bad rating. But I definitely enjoyed it.
and don't forget, Johnny Mo is also a very harsh critic.
Oh, I'm super duper harsh.
So like if whatever he's giving you could probably add at least half a star, and
Yeah.
that could be more what the general population would think.
Yeah, so that means Repulsion is like 4.5.
Yeah, it's probably edging on 5.
I give movies
It's-
4 stars,
it's-
and they're not all older than me.
It's a
you know?
5-star film. It's a 5-star movie on a 4-star scale.
Yeah. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 4 stars. You know, this is a recent movie.
You know, with In regards to the Conjuring films, there's always that saying in Hollywood, when you strike gold with the first film, it's always okay. Give
Just
me more
keep-
of the same but different.
Just keep mining that same gold mine.
Give me more of the same but different. And I, this film had some elements of similarities to the first film, but there were so many things that were different, and it separates this film from the first one.
Yeah, no, I do. I think they did a little bit more visual. They got more into the visuals.
Yeah.
I think, and less in the subtleties.
But and also the interesting aspect when it was like one demon was controlling the ghost who was kind of sitting around,
Yeah.
and how that worked. I
Made
thought
it-
that was
made it like a
That was
mystery.
different. Yeah, it made it a little more of a mystery because the whole time you're thinking that it's this guy who's screwing everybody over, and it wasn't. There was another presence that was there, and I thought that was a neat twist.
Well, yeah, there was something really funny that happened when we were watching the movie because the old guy ghost was like going around the house and telling everybody to get out of the house. This is my house.
Yeah.
And I think I looked at Chris at one point. I said that's going to be me in 200 years, ghosting around my house and on Holbrook Street, telling people to get out of my library. And this is my library. Get the hell out. But, I
That
can
will
see,
probably happen.
I can see myself wanting something in my afterlife for sure. Because I'm not going to want to go anywhere. I'm just going to want to hang out and see what's going on.
You want to sit down in your man cave and just
Yeah.
stay with your comics.
Yeah, exactly.
But guys, I think that's going to be it for this episode. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, this was.
Except that the next movie that we're going to watch on our Halloween tour, hopefully we can watch it before Halloween, but if not, it'll be maybe that weekend. I get the next pick.
Yeah, you got the pick.
For right now, the pick is The Innocents, Innocents, The Innocents, from, pretty sure it's in this black and white movie from the 60s in Britain with really, really good ghost, one of the best ghost stories ever, ghost movies, with Deborah Carr, based on the classic Henry James novel, The Turn of the Screw.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
everyone. Cheers. Thank you
Cheers.
so much for watching, guys. Have a great night.